Behavioral management, and I wanted to bring up some early intervention ideas, even though oftentimes this is not the resident that you will be working with. However, on occasion it does happen where somebody is moved into a residential care facility because of some medical issues in addition to some behavior that, excuse me, that might require some of these more early management techniques. Now, one of the things that's really important, and I know different placements have different types of documentation schedules, but any new behavior is really important to pass on to the rest of the staff so that people can be aware of it and people can sort of monitor how frequently the behavior is becoming. Because if it's just periodic and it's not really interfering, then, no more, structured intervention will need to take place. However, if it's becoming more frequent and if it's becoming to the point where behaviorally there's a lot of this emotional and behavioral discontrol, then obviously more structured plans need to be put into place. Now, at the beginning, really cognitive behavioral techniques or problem-solving techniques are really, really helpful. So it's removing the person from the acute situation to try to manage their behavior better, to give them a little bit more control over their surroundings so that maybe they can make choices about the activity that they would like to engage in at that time. So things like that are often helpful in these very early stages of a dementing process. Now, in moderate stages, that's when we have to start to think about some of these other issues, like safety issues, because obviously if someone has a way to get out of the facility and can wander off, then that becomes very dangerous. Or if they have a tendency to act out or act aggressively towards staff or to other residents, then obviously those are the things that really need to be managed. So this idea of how do we diminish or even eliminate some of the frustrations that people are experiencing, that becomes very, very important. But for each individual, this is really an individualized process. Because as we know, what causes frustration in one person is not going to cause frustration in another person. And although some of these are, theme-like, so that the same types of issues cause difficulty for certain people, what we really need to do is to manage it per person. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So this escalation, this last bullet point here, be alert to escalation of aggressive behaviors and nip it in the bud. And really what I mean by that is a lot of times what's the most important is to think about the safety for the resident, for the other residents, and for the staff. So if that means putting people into, what we would call timeout, then that definitely needs to occur just in the acute situation. Okay. So for moderate mood and aggressive behaviors, exercise has been the key, and this is what I was talking about with that second case that I was presenting. Now, I know that a number of different residential care facilities now have Wii games, and those are becoming more and more commonplace. And initially, we were seeing that residential care facilities were using these as just an exercise booster. But it's actually been seen in numerous studies that some of the cognitive games, quote unquote, have actually been very, very helpful in slowing down the progression of the disease state. So that some of these games, when they're minimally challenging and allow the person to actually use their body, use their hands in playing some of these games, they're actually using more brain places or more brain regions so that they're actually improving, or not even, maybe not improving, but not declining as quickly. The other thing, especially on days like today, when you can go for a nice walk outside, Now, again, you have to be careful of the wandering and of people. If you don't have enough of the staff to go with a group of people, sometimes this is better done one-on-one, but just going for a walk, looking at the foliage, looking at the environment, sort of just talking to the person, just stating, look at those trees, look at the cat, did you see the squirrel, just showing different things that are available, sort of as additional stimulation. But again, if it's a busy street or a busy place or there's horns and things that are agitating, then obviously that's not a place to be taking the residents. Simple stretching, yoga, we have seen as being extremely helpful, because not only do these yoga techniques help the body physically, but it also improves circulation and it helps mind. It helps the mind. It sort of, lightens up that level of stress. So when individuals, even if they're feeling somewhat disoriented and confused, they can learn these behavioral motor sequences and actually can really gain some, cognitive and emotional strength. And I'm going to talk about more of that in a minute. The other thing is dancing. Now, especially in the generation that are now living in or approaching, residential care facilities, when you think about the types of dances or the type of dancing that they certainly know and used to enjoy in a lot of situations, then this actually helps people. Anything that they remember from previously will help them tremendously. So to put on the music and have some dancing going on, even if it's just for, 20 minutes here and there, is really helpful in terms of mood and limiting frustration and keeping a person upbeat, and might even evoke some memories which will also help the person fare better in terms of their affect.